Picture a local bakery.
Yeah.
Right? It's like 5 in the morning on a Tuesday. The solo owner is just sitting there at a flour-dusted desk in the back room, sipping coffee and just staring at a laptop.
Yeah, the classic morning grind.
Exactly. But they aren't just, reviewing inventory. They're actively feeding local weather forecast data into a browser window.
Right.
And they're asking a software model to predict how, a sudden weekend rainstorm is going to shift foot traffic away from the storefront.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, this is crazy, automatically drafting these highly personalized promotional emails to their loyalty members to compensate for the expected dip in sales.
It's incredible.
I mean, 10 years ago, running that kind of granular predictive analysis, that required a Fortune 500 boardroom with, the glass walls.
Oh, absolutely.
You needed a dozen data analysts crunching numbers, an entire IT department on speed dial, and this massive overhead budget just to squeeze out that level of market intelligence.
Right. Millions of dollars.
But today, it's just the baker and a browser tab, executing the exact same analysis in, about 4 minutes?
Yeah, if that.
And that inversion of power, that is the core of what we're doing on this deep dive today. We are pulling from the 2026 book and the accompanying blog post, The AI Advantage, Small Business Edition.
That's the one.
Our focus for you today is the complete democratization of artificial intelligence for small businesses. The mission here is to cut straight through the tech jargon and, all the overwhelming hype cycle.
Because there's a lot of it.
So much hype. We want to extract the exact frameworks you need to understand how AI can automate and accelerate your own professional life. So, okay, let's unpack this because the underlying premise here fundamentally rewrites the rules of leverage in the business world.
Yeah, it really does. And the central theme we see in the source material is that the narrative of AI being this exclusive luxury for Silicon Valley tech giants, that's entirely dead.
Gone.
Completely. The technology has fundamentally shifted from being a specialized tool to being a collaborative partner. And, more importantly, it's a partner that aggressively levels the playing field for solo entrepreneurs and local Main Street businesses who, like you said previously, couldn't afford that enterprise-grade intelligence.
Right. I want to explore how we got to this leveled playing field, actually. Because the historical barrier to entry for this kind of operational automation was basically a brick wall.
Oh, yeah.
If a mid-sized company wanted automated customer support or predictive supply chain analysis even a decade ago, they had to build custom infrastructure.
From scratch, usually.
Right. They needed on-premise server racks that required, specialized cooling systems.
Yeah, the server rooms.
They needed to purchase perpetual software licenses that cost more than a small business's entire annual revenue. You were effectively buying a factory just to make one product.
Exactly. And the shift happened when the cloud computing revolution collided with the generative AI. The fundamental architecture of how software is delivered was completely rewritten. Instead of businesses having to host and run these incredibly heavy, complex mathematical models on their own hardware.
Which is a nightmare.
A total nightmare. Instead of that, the intelligence is now processed in massive external data centers. The user just accesses the output.
Right.
So the most sophisticated cognitive models in human history are just sitting right there in a standard web browser.
It's wild to think about.
It is. The financial barrier plummeted from hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital expenditure to the price of a monthly streaming subscription. Or, in many cases, an open source tool that is entirely free.
It's like David versus Goliath, but David's slingshot is just a $20 a month cloud subscription.
That's a great way to put it.
But I do have to push back on this a little bit, just on behalf of the listener.
Okay.
Does agility really beat scale?
Okay, fair question.
Because even if David has a cloud-based slingshot, Goliath still has massive capital reserves, right? They have global reach, huge marketing budgets. Does simply having access to the same AI really close a gap that wide?
Well, what's fascinating here is that in the modern economy, speed to deployment has become the ultimate currency.
Speed?
Yes. Agility naturally defeats scale when the technological baseline is equalized. Large corporations they're notoriously slow to adapt.
All the red tape.
Exactly. A massive enterprise might want to implement a new generative AI tool to sort customer feedback, right? But they have to pass it through bureaucratic approval processes, integrate it with legacy software systems those take years to replace.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to push past massive organizational inertia.
Right, but meanwhile, our bakery owner.
Completely nimble. The text gives a timeline that perfectly illustrates this, actually. A solo entrepreneur can read about a new AI tool on a Tuesday morning, test it out on some dummy data on Wednesday afternoon, and have it fully deployed into their daily live operations by Friday.
Wow. Tuesday to Friday.
Goliath fundamentally cannot move that fast. When the core cognitive tools are identical, the winner is the entity that can adapt and execute with the least friction.
Yeah, so the red tape becomes an absolute liability for the big guys.
Precisely.
But, okay, if that barrier to entry is gone and execution is really all that matters, what happens to the business owners who choose to just, ignore the shift entirely?
Yeah.
Because the source text outlines this rapidly widening digital divide between early adopters and laggards.
Yeah, and the cost of hesitation is no longer just a missed opportunity. It's an existential threat.
Oof, existential.
It really is. The businesses adopting this tech early aren't just saving an hour of administrative work here or there. They are actively reinvesting that saved time into revenue-generating activities.
Right.
If an AI-enabled competitor can, say, draft a comprehensive marketing campaign in 10 minutes, instantly analyze their monthly financial trends to spot wasteful spending, and provide 24-hour customer service without expanding their payroll, they are operating on a completely different plane of efficiency.
And those aren't static advantages either.
Yeah.
The text really emphasizes that these are marginal gains that compound exponentially.
Yes.
Like, if you utilize AI to increase your operational efficiency by 5% this week, you take those saved hours and use them to acquire a new client.
Exactly.
Then next month, you apply that same AI framework to the new, larger workload, and your efficiency jumps to 10%.
It functions exactly like compound interest, but for productivity.
I love that.
Within a 12-month cycle, the business utilizing AI operates at a velocity and cost efficiency that traditional competitors simply cannot mathematically match using manual processes.
See, I hear from people all the time who fall into the wait-and-see camp.
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
They say, I'm just going to wait until the bugs are ironed out. I'll adopt it when the user interface is perfect.
Right.
But reading through this framework, waiting for AI to mature feels like, I don't know, refusing to use a smartphone until Apple promises to stop releasing new models.
That's a perfect analogy.
You're waiting for an endpoint that just doesn't exist, and you're cutting yourself off from the market in the meantime.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, waiting for perfection is a fundamentally flawed strategy because using AI is not like installing a new printer.
Right.
It is a behavioral skill. It requires practice and intuition. The businesses that start experimenting right now are building what the author calls internal literacy.
Internal literacy.
You have to build that literacy immediately because the baseline expectations of your customers have permanently changed.
Right. The market won't wait.
Exactly. Think about the mechanism of customer service, right? If a client submits a complex inquiry and expects a customized, highly accurate response within 5 minutes, because, hey, your AI-enabled competitor is already delivering that standard, and you take 2 business days because your team is manually researching the answer, you lose the client. The market simply will not wait for your internal comfort levels to catch up.
Man, that makes the stakes incredibly clear. So if building that internal literacy is the immediate goal for you listening, we need to know exactly where we're starting from.
Right.
The text outlines 4 distinct stages of AI readiness to help you diagnose your current position.
Yeah.
And I don't just want to list these off. I want to look at the actual journey a business owner takes through these stages. Let's imagine, like a local landscape architect.
Okay.
Stage 1 is the observer.
So the observer is highly aware of the technology, right? But they keep it at arm's length from their livelihood.
Just dabbling.
Yeah. Our landscape architect might use a generative AI tool at home to brainstorm a weekly meal plan, but they harbor this lingering skepticism about whether a digital tool can actually understand the nuances of soil types or local zoning laws.
Right.
The friction point keeping them at this stage is a lack of clarity on how to bridge the gap between a neat party trick and actual business utility.
Which pushes them to stage 2, right? The experimenter.
Exactly.
This happens when the architect hits a wall. Maybe they have intense writer's block while trying to draft an email to a really difficult client.
We've all been there.
So they pull up a chatbot and ask it to write a polite but firm response. It works. But it's entirely sporadic. It's unstructured. There is no system in place. It's just a digital Band-Aid they apply when they're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, and the real transformation happens when they cross the threshold into stage 3, the practitioner.
The practitioner.
This is where the band-aids become a systemic workflow. The architect isn't just writing one-off emails anymore. They have successfully integrated AI into repeatable business processes.
So how does that look?
Well, when a new lead fills out a form on their website, an AI tool automatically categorizes the request, drafts a preliminary quote based on square footage, and schedules a site visit.
That's amazing.
And crucially, the practitioner is actively measuring the return on investment. They know exactly how many hours per week this system saves them.
And that leads to the final stage.
Yeah.
The innovator.
Yeah.
This is where AI stops being a tool for efficiency and becomes the core driver of the business strategy itself.
Mm-hmm.
The architect might use predictive models to offer a completely new subscription service for seasonal plant care, proactively notifying clients when their specific garden needs winterizing based on algorithmic climate data.
That's a huge leap.
It is. But let me ask a pointed question here, because I think a lot of listeners might feel a bit of fatigue hearing all this.
Sure.
Does everyone really have to reach that innovator stage? I mean, can't you just be a highly efficient practitioner, use AI to save yourself 10 grueling hours of paperwork a week, just call it a day?
Well, it is a tempting place to stop, but hovering at the practitioner stage ignores the broader shift in the market ecosystem.
How so?
Moving up this spectrum isn't about buying more software or, forcing yourself to become a tech visionary. It is about systematically restructuring your operations to survive.
Wow. Survive.
Yes. If you stop at practitioner, you are undeniably more efficient, but your underlying business model remains traditional. You are just doing the old things faster.
Right.
The innovator stage is necessary because your competitors aren't just going to use this technology to speed up old tasks. They will use it to offer value propositions you haven't even thought of yet.
They'll outmaneuver you.
They will change the rules of the game in your specific niche. You don't have to launch a tech startup, but you do have to be willing to reimagine how you deliver value, or your addressable market will simply shrink.
That requires a massive mental shift. To advance from a practitioner doing things faster to an innovator doing things differently, you have to fundamentally change how you interact with software. And here's where it gets really interesting for me. The text points out that traditional software is input-output. You click a save button, and you expect the exact same file to be saved in the exact same location every single time. It is rigid, predictable, and requires precise commands. But generative AI operates on probability. I love analogies, and reading this, it hit me. Traditional software is like a calculator. 2 plus 2 is always 4.
Right.
Generative AI is a sous chef. You don't just walk into the kitchen, press a button, and expect a perfect bisque. You have to taste the soup. If it's bland, you don't throw the soup away and fire the chef. You tell them to add more salt or turn down the heat.
That shift from a commander to a collaborator is the highest hurdle for most seasoned professionals, actually.
Oh.
Oh, absolutely. We are deeply conditioned to think of software as brittle. If it gives the wrong answer, the software is broken.
Right.
But generative AI works by predicting the most statistically likely response based on the massive amounts of data it was trained on, combined with the specific context you provide.
Direction.
Exactly. The author suggests treating the AI like a highly capable, incredibly eager intern who happens to completely lack specific context about your company culture.
The eager intern. I love that.
When the intern hands you a drafted report that completely misses the mark, you don't abandon the tool. You engage in an iterative dialogue. You refine your instructions.
Yeah, so you literally talk to it.
Yeah. You say, this is a great structure, but the tone is too formal for our brand. Rewrite it to be more conversational, and heavily emphasize the cost savings in paragraph 2. The baseline rule of thumb is, the better you can articulate a task to a human being, the better you can explain it to the AI.
It is about learning to communicate intent, which is a very human skill. And this connects perfectly to the point the text makes about the fear of automation replacing staff. Successful small businesses use this eager intern to augment their employees, not replace them. The AI handles the mundane data entry, the initial research, the formatting.
The tedious stuff.
Exactly. That removes the robotic tasks from the human workflow, which frees up the actual human staff to focus on high-value tasks that mandate genuine empathy, complex negotiation, and critical thinking. The AI analyzes the spreadsheet, but the human looks the client in the eye and builds the relationship.
To achieve that balance, though, you need to select the right intern, or rather, the right suite of tools. And the current market is completely flooded.
Overwhelmed.
There are thousands of applications launching every month claiming to revolutionize your workflow, which inevitably leads to massive decision fatigue.
Yes, the paradox of choice is real.
Hmm.
But the text provides a framework to cut through that noise by breaking the entire ecosystem down into 4 distinct functional areas.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at 1,000 random apps, think of it as building a digital stats. First, you need a brain. These are large language models.
That's right, the LLM.
These are the conversational interfaces that ingest text, recognize patterns, and synthesize data. You use them for brainstorming, drafting copy, and summarizing long documents.
Then you need a creative department. These are media generators.
Oh, these are fun.
They really are. They democratize design by generating images, audio, or video mock-ups from text prompts. This dramatically lowers the cost of daily content creation.
So no more expensive stock photos.
Exactly. The local retailer doesn't need to put an advertising agency on a monthly retainer just to test out a few visual concepts for a holiday sale. They can prototype the imagery themselves.
Next, you need a nervous system to connect the body parts.
Yeah.
These are automation platforms. They act as the invisible glue between your disparate systems. Let's say you use a customer relationship management system, a CRM, to track your client history. Automation platforms allow your website, your email inbox, and your CRM to talk to each other.
They bridge the gaps.
Right. When a client emails a question, the automation software logs it in the CRM, asks the large language model to draft a reply based on the specific client's history, and drops the draft in your outbox.
Seamless. And finally, you have specialized vertical tools. These are niche software platforms built for highly specific industry tasks, like an AI designed strictly to analyze legal contracts for loopholes.
Wow.
Or a tool that generates real estate listings based on property photos.
Okay, so understanding those categories prevents you from buying redundant software. But once you identify the type of tool you need, you still have to evaluate the specific application. The book offers a strict 4-point evaluation criteria for this.
Yes.
Ease of integration, data privacy, cost, and immediate ROI.
That's right.
Now, I really want to challenge that first criteria, ease of integration. The book explicitly argues that if a tool requires you to overhaul your existing workflows, it might not be worth the effort. But what if it's genuinely the most powerful, revolutionary tool on the market? Isn't the friction of a total workflow overhaul worth the long-term benefit?
I mean, I see where you're coming from.
Right. Like when businesses shifted from paper ledgers to digital spreadsheets, it was incredibly painful, but it was necessary. Shouldn't we be willing to endure some operational pain for a massive upgrade?
It is a logical argument, but it ignores the reality of how small businesses operate day to day. The text offers a sharp warning here. Technology must always serve strategy, not the reverse.
Okay.
We established earlier that your ultimate advantage over massive corporations is agility. If you adopt a tool that forces you to halt operations for a month, retrain your entire staff, and abandon a scheduling system your team already relies on,
You lose the agility.
you completely destroy that agility advantage. The friction outweighs the theoretical benefits because the tech landscape is moving too fast.
That's true.
By the time you finish the painful 6-month overhaul, a newer, easier tool will have already launched. This is why the author stresses that plugins and browser extensions, things that live inside the software you already use, should always be prioritized over migrating to entirely new, walled-off ecosystems.
Ah, I see.
You want tools that quietly adapt to your workflow, not tools that force you to adapt to them.
Keep the friction low so you don't paralyze the business. That makes total sense. But we really need to look at the second criteria because the book labels this one as completely non-negotiable. Data privacy.
Yeah. This is perhaps the most critical operational warning in the entire excerpt. We talked about large language models being pattern recognition engines, right?
Right.
Well, public models are constantly hungry for new data to train their future iterations. If you use a free public generative AI tool, any information you type into that prompt box might be ingested into the model's training data.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. If you are a boutique accounting firm, and you upload a client's messy profit and loss spreadsheet into a public AI tool to, quickly organize it,
You're just giving it away.
you have just fed confidential financial data into a global learning machine. Next week, if a competitor asks that same AI model a broad question about regional profit margins, your client's proprietary data might actually inform the AI's answer.
That is terrifying.
It is. You must rigorously evaluate whether the tool you are using has strict enterprise privacy controls, guaranteeing that your inputs are siloed and explicitly not used for broader model training.
You definitely do not want your eager digital intern accidentally sharing your client's financial data with the rest of the internet. That is a guaranteed way to instantly shatter client trust and invite a massive lawsuit.
To synthesize the core mechanics of what we've covered today, the enterprise barrier that protected large corporations has completely fallen.
It's gone.
Operational efficiency is now compounding at a rate that makes manual processes obsolete. By shifting your mindset from a rigid commander to a collaborative partner with an eager intern, and rigorously evaluating your digital tools based on frictionless integration and strict data privacy, you can systematically restructure your business. You move from being a skeptical observer to a market-leading innovator.
So what does this all mean? It means the landscape has fundamentally and permanently changed. If you are listening to this right now, whether you're sitting in a home office or standing behind a retail counter, you have the exact same cognitive processing tools at your fingertips as a Fortune 500 executive sitting in a glass boardroom.
It's incredible.
The technology itself is no longer the differentiator in the market. Your willingness to experiment and iterate is. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Yeah.
At the very end of the blog post accompanying this book, the author highlights a comment from a reader that poses a fascinating, complex dilemma. The commenter asks, what governance or ethical considerations should be put in place to responsibly use AI in your daily operations?
It's a big question.
Because if your eager intern is essentially running critical parts of your business on autopilot, drafting emails to vendors, analyzing market data, interacting with the public, who actually takes the fall when it hallucinates a terrible policy or makes a critical mistake with one of your most valuable customers?
Exactly. The boardroom and the analysts might be gone, but the responsibility still sits entirely with the baker at the desk.
Something to chew on as you start building your digital staff. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.